there's two things that I really, two questions I have. One's a statement, one question. I'm sorry. The thing I love about everything that you just said, and you just rattled off a half a dozen marketing campaigns that have been effective. They're not just, strategies or techniques that you can say, oh, I did this, but they're working. They're pulling business into your studio, and they are free.
And they're free.
Hey, what's up, everybody? That was part of my conversation with this episode's guest, June Kahn. June has so much experience. She opened up her first studio in 1989. She opened up her latest studio in 2017. And by 2018, she was best of Boulder. And she did it all through business to business and community-based marketing. She spent almost $0 on social media marketing. No digital marketing at all. Just old school business to business, establishing herself in the community. And she's crushing it in Boulder. And she's going to share in this episode how you can do the same thing. So if you're bootstrapped for a marketing budget or just want to cut back on your marketing budget and find something that is very low cost, free, and effective, then grab a notepad and some pen and start taking notes, because you're going to want to on this conversation with June Kahn. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Masters in Fitness Business Podcast, where you get to stand on the shoulders of giants. And today I have a true giant in the industry. She's been in the industry since the 80s and still is relevant today, because she grows and evolves, and it's a great person to have on the podcast, June Kahn. Welcome to the show, June.
Thank you so much, James. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time out. And funny story is that I met June in Irvine, California at the Succeed conference. But I've known of June for a long time, because she lived in St. Louis for 20 years. She opened one of the first Pilates and aerobics studios here way back in 1989. Now she lives in Denver, Colorado, so I have to fly to California to meet her. So June, let's see if I can read just the first paragraph. Her resume is like 3 pages long. June is an internationally recognized fitness leader and educator. She's the 2009 World Idea Instructor of the Year, founder of June Kahn's Bodyworks, LLC, and former Life Power Pilates coordinator for Lifetime Fitness. Her newest venture is Pilates rehab practitioner with Maso Medical and Bodywork, and is the director of education for Balance Through Movement Pilates Studio in Boulder, Colorado.
Can I jump in here?
Sure.
That's an old resume you have. Because I now own a Pilates studio. I no longer work for those industries that I did work for that catapulted me, but I now own an award-winning 2 years in a row, Best of Boulder 2 years in a row, Center Your Body's Pilates studio. I want to put that in, because I'm no longer working for those individuals, but they did give me the jumps.
Okay. Yeah. But your current Pilates studio has a medical component in it. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We are a rehab. I am a certified rehab practitioner, as well as 2 of my other staff members. And we have an affiliation with 6 orthopedic surgeons, as well as physical therapists in the area. So we have had to literally I don't want to say invent, but create a different type of session. So yes, we are a Pilates studio, full service, where we offer Pilates classes as well as Pilates privates, but we have a whole rehab component to what we do, where we have 30-minute sessions where we pick up where the physical therapist leaves off, but that is also accompanied by a prescription from the physician or surgeon stating exactly what they want done. So it may not always be the full whole body thing that we're doing in our Pilates classes, because we have to focus and continue on the rehab until they can go back and be mainstream to what they're doing. So it's just an extension of what the physical therapist does. But this is such a great opportunity. We can talk about this more, because this is where the personal trainer needs to go. And that's where the health coach certification is going to come in. So we know how ACE launched their ACE American Council on Exercise launched their health coach certification. And what they're doing is they're trying to catapult that into allowing reimbursements from insurance companies based on that health what is it? Listen to me. I'm going crazy. So I'm speaking.
No,
I'm
I
trying
know
to
what
think
you
of
mean. The
health coach.
recent law that's been passed. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So we've been able to tap into that to a point where that is 35% of my business. And
So
that's huge.
do insurance companies reimburse you for that?
Very good question. No, they don't reimburse us because Pilates is not, or Pilates practitioners are not recognized under the laws that govern the medical community. But there's a way to get around it. And the way to get around that is through the prescription that the physician, they present me with a prescription. Then I write up what I am doing, giving them writing on in a letter stating the sessions that they bought, what we're doing, what we're working with, write-ups and all that. That is presented by the client to the insurance company. And if their clause in their insurance company has reimbursement for chiropractic care or physical therapy, I would say that probably 80% of that can go to Pilates. I'm working right now with 5 individuals that are able to do that. And that's with the help of all the clinical practitioners that I'm working with. So they can get some of it back. Can they get 100% of it back? No, you're not going to get 100, but 70% is better than nothing. And it really depends on the insurance company. That's the big issue is, will the insurance company recognize us? And I can tell you that I know that United Healthcare has, especially here in Boulder, Colorado has. So, and I think Anthem was another one that did. So we're on our way. We're totally on our way. We're getting there. And I foresee that happening, especially with the route that the American College of Sports Medicine is taking through their Exercise is Medicine campaign. And there's a lot of action going on their end trying to push that forward. It's still a work in process, but we are gaining more momentum by getting physicians on board to allow this to happen. The big key is making sure that the personal trainers are getting the education that they need. So they have to go beyond the basic personal training certification and start to really look into working with those that certify in rehab in rehab and things like that. And there's a lot of that out there right now going on. If they can keep all of that moving into that arena, they're going to be able to capture some of that revenue, which is
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, with that new law coming into effect soon, that's going to be the new frontier. And and there's really not a trail that's been blazed for it. There's not a model right now for it. So there's going to be a lot of trial and error. So that's why I was excited to get you on the podcast for several reasons. One, because I've known and heard of you for so long. I saw you present at Succeed. You were awesome. And so that's why I actually kind of almost accosted you on the bus headed back to the airport, and got you on the podcast. But 2, you're blazing that new frontier of creating referrals, B2B referrals with medical professionals and also other businesses in the area. And because of that, you were able to grow your new Pilates studio dramatically and win the best of 2 years in a row. So I wrote myself a note because I want to circle back and really try to unpack that a little bit. And I got to write myself notes because I'm getting older and the things just don't stay in here as long as they used to, which is why I just had 2 hours of staff meetings. And that's why I use my dry erase board behind me, because otherwise I'll forget. There's so many.
Same thing here. I have a little pad here.
Yeah.
Same exact thing. And we do so much and so much goes through our mind that if I don't write things down, it just goes in and out. Then I get angry at myself for not. So I use my phone quite a bit. But yeah, I hear you on that one. So.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm glad to have you on. So because before we started recording, we were reminiscing, or at least I was reminiscing as I was listening to you, because you opened up you started teaching Pilates way back in '82. Then you open your
Pilates, aerobics.
Aerobics, I'm sorry.
Teaching in the 90s.
Okay.
But started teaching aerobics and general fitness.
Okay.
I started teaching that like 1982 or 84.
Okay. And then you opened up your aerobic studio in 1989.
1989 in St. Louis, yes.
In St. Louis. Yep. Yep. And I was telling you that I started personal training at a facility, personal training studio in January 1990. And at the time, there were 2 personal training studios in St. Louis, and we were both doing one-on-one training. We never heard of small group. That wasn't even a
It was
thing.
unheard of. Totally
It was unheard of. Yeah, exactly. Now, fast forward to today, and one-on-one training is kind of gone by the wayside. It's not the darling that it used to be. Everybody's into the small group. There's top competitors everywhere. So you have to be on top of your game if you're going to succeed in this industry of fitness. And you have a long track record. I mean, you opened up your first studio in 1989, and you're still opening up studios in 2018, 19, and they're still successful. You have stayed relevant all of that time. And I know that only comes from an attitude of humility, where you can evolve with the market, with the consumers, and with yourself. So that right there is so impressive to me. So kudos to you, which is another reason I wanted to have you on the show.
Thank you.
So let's jump into that a little bit. So and it's escaping me because I didn't write it down, what the new law is that's going to allow for insurance, potentially allow for insurance reimbursement.
Big potential, exactly.
Right.
But what's happening now, though, with that law, though, I think there is more corporate involvement of giving money or allowing the money that is given to employees to use it towards healthcare and fitness. I think that's part of the law. I like you, I don't know the whole law. We have to kind of look that up, but it's going to allow for them to be reimbursed for what they do in fitness in general, because the ability of the medical community to understand the power of nutrition and fitness now. I mean, even now, I'm not sure if you have Kaiser Permanente in your neck of the woods, which is an HMO. I think it's an HMO. We have that in Colorado. They're in many states. I don't think they're in Missouri. But to the point now, when a patient goes in on their first visit, on their initial visit, every physician must bring up the power of plant-based eating in your diet. Not that you have to be a vegan, whatever, but they're not just talking about, let's look at, what's going on in your life. Let's also look at what are you eating. That's a huge step. So we're seeing that, plus the component of physicians understanding the power of movement. I mean, when I go on Facebook every day, there's always something that's coming out that's stating how important moving every day is. It's vital to life. We understand that. And because of the population that we have in the United States, with 80 some odd percent or over that is in the obese category. These people aren't moving. And as a result, what's happening? Look at diabetes. I've heard that in 10 years, they say the entire population could be diabetic because of diet and non-movement. That's a scary thing. And if they don't do something about it, the insurance companies aren't going to be able to survive, mainly because they can't pay for all this stuff anymore. So something has to be done. And I think we're starting to see that merge. And even though this started, or I'd say the movement started about, I'd say probably close to 8 years ago with ACSM. I know Dr. Walter Thompson has been at the helm of this forever, and he's finally spearing some of this and getting some fusion into it, but we're still not there yet. It's going to take a while, but the big thing is that we are, and physicians are recognizing. I'm fortunate. I live in Boulder, Colorado. So living in Boulder, Colorado, we're a hugely active community, huge community. So it's not that difficult to turn a physician on to the importance of what movement is and even good nutrition. But when we've got other states out there in the country, we've got to be in this as a whole. It can't just be, to me, state by state. We really have to have somebody step in and help people get healthy. That's the whole thing.
Yeah,
I mean, people are living longer. We all know that. But are they willing? Are they really living better? That's the key. And I think that's what we have to look at. And how do we get them there?
I think those are great points. There's so much in there because it comes down to lifespan versus play span. Lifespan is how long you live, and then play span is how much life you have while you're living.
Exactly.
I think it's really, really important to focus on the play span. And I'm surprised that it's taken this long for the healthcare community to come around to realize that it's food. I mean, because everybody can get on their soapbox, especially in the fitness industry, about this. My 2 cents is that, when 2/3 of the population are obese, then that becomes the norm. So then if you're healthy and fit, you're an outlier. right?
Exactly.
You're part of the majority. So it's hard. It makes it even harder to penetrate that market as a result, especially if you come into it with the mindset of, this is what you need to do. This is the answer to all your problems. I'm healthy and fit. Don't you want to be healthy and fit like me? And they're like, no, man, I just want to kind of feel better and enjoy my life, or whatever. I can't tell you how many times I've had clients come in and said, the doctor told me that I need to start working out or I'm going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And then I take them through the assessment process and, say, okay, you ready to get started? I need to think about it. Really? Didn't your doctor say you were going to die and you want to think about it? So it's just, we have to really take some time to understand that mindset so that we can start penetrating that market.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that said, I live in St. Louis. We're one of the top 5 or bottom 5, however you want to put it, of most obese states. We're just a little bit above Alabama. So it's harder to get physicians on board with that here. But my point is that for training and fitness professionals going forward, the differentiator is going to be coordination with healthcare and nutrition, because anybody can train. Anybody can take you through a training program. And most consumers don't know the difference between one that's programmed terrifically and one that's crap. Just take a look at Instagram. Some of the stuff that people post on Instagram.
We won't go there.
It's horrific.
Yeah.
Horrific. But if you want to really be successful going forward in the fitness industry, one, you have to be professional. You have to know your stuff, and you have to coordinate other things beyond exercise, lifestyle factors in there in order to separate yourself depending on what niche. And you have to pick a niche. You can't say, oh, I'm for everybody. Nobody's for everybody. But you have to pick a niche. And once you pick that niche, it allows you to go deeper into that niche.
And that's exactly what you're saying, is exactly what I ended up doing. So whereas Pilates is where I began at the age of 15 and veered off, but I recognized how important functional movement, everyday functional movement, is to maintaining vitality and bringing bodies back to life. So my emphasis and focus was on going back to that, to Pilates, and starting there, because I'm not the end all. When people come into our studio, we're there to get them started, or for some of the professional athletes, to help them build up core strength, whatever. But we've got to be able to be open to work with others as well. So that I think some of my biggest success has been, taking the non-competitive attitude out of things and looking within my community. And this is where we go to that grassroots marketing lecture that I talked about, is that looking at who else is around me that can help me in my community to allow the community, locals, to understand the value of what it is to be well-rounded and not just trying to kill yourself in one thing or not doing anything. It tends to be they either think they have to go, or the mindset is they have to either go all out or they're just going to sit and do nothing. And I have found, especially with the baby boomer population, that the word exercise alone scares them off. They hear the word exercise and they freak out. We've even changed our language in terms of how we talk to people. So it's no longer about exercise. It's about just moving your body in as little as 10 minutes a day can have profound impact on your life. Let's take a look at how we can incorporate maybe 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening into your life to get a start and start to notice how you start feeling better. I mean, those are some of the avenues that we're trying to take, and we do in an effort to get people to understand the value of moving alone. I mean, just that, because you're absolutely right. The population that is not moving, to get them off the couch, that's the hardest thing. And our industry, is fabulous as our industry is, they're not reaching that population. No. We're not. I mean, because the number, that 80% number was the same 10 years ago. In fact, it's gone up. It's not gone down. So I feel that our fitness industry, sometimes we're not doing our job. We're not hitting the markets that we need to hit. That's why I took the route of working with my local community and creating. We do free events. Those free events, they're great for educating my community, but they're great for bringing awareness to what people need to do. And when we do those events, we just had an email blast go out to the whole downtown Louisville community this morning, and it was done by the chamber. And there's a number of events that we're all doing together to try to help promote wellness. I mean, it's the way you have to work, or we're not going to get it there. And it has to also include the medical community, big time. It's work. Can't say it's not work. My day is nonstop, but I have a mission. And as I said, this mission is not going to stop until it gets to that point where I want it to happen. And it will. The progress has been slow, but I think we'll get there at some point. I think we're getting better at it. And I see the industry starting to emerge. Our fitness industry is moving. We're seeing more functional medicine, more functional, we got a lot of active age, but we also got to worry about the millennials too. I mean, what about those kids that are in school that are they're sitting down too much? I just heard, I was talking to somebody that said that now the school district that they're in, I cannot remember the state, so forgive me, but the first thing they do with these kids in the morning is don't sit them down at the desk. They get up and do their Pledge of Allegiance or whatever, but then they go out and then they move. You have the kids move before they sit down. I'm like, yay, kudos to you. These are some of the things we need to be doing. Stop taking phys eds out of the school and stop having them take all these written tests on phys ed. Let them move and let them, how else are their brains going to work if you're going to have them sit there and get so tired all the time? So I can't do it alone. That's the thing. You can't do it alone, right?
And again, just so much in there, which is why I'm loving having you on. Because like you said, a lot of schools are taking the physical education out of it. So people are moving less and less, even the younger generation. But I think one of the advantages because most people would, look, I know some people look at me and say, oh, you've been training for 30 years, you're in your 50s, maybe you've lost touch with the fitness industry, and I choose to see it as a positive in that when I get a client in front of me, I know when I was a 24, 25-year-old trainer and I got a client, I might've got a 60-year-old, woman, menopausal woman.
Right.
And I'm thinking, okay, I love squats. Squats really help me. Bench press really helps me. Okay, Mrs. Johnson, I know you're 60 and you haven't really been involved in an exercise program or moved very much other than getting up and out of your chair, maybe going to get the mail, going to the grocery store. Let's squat. And that's a recipe for injury. And so eventually, being in an industry, and you've done this as well, you've evolved to the point where you say, okay, this is good for me, but it may not be good for my clients. Why don't I make it about my clients and see what they need and build a program based on my knowledge that's beneficial for them? They're like, oh, I see you doing squats. Can I squat? Well, we'll eventually get you there. But first, we need to clean up your movement a little bit. And you just had a hip replacement, so it may be a second. So things like that. And then, the last thing that I will say is that when you said the language, speaking their language, we have to, as an industry, get out of the mindset of everybody wants to be like us, because they don't.
They really don't. They like to watch us. They like to watch us. They don't want to be like us. They want to watch us.
Yeah.
But watching us is not going to help them.
Right.
And we have to get out of the me syndrome, and the more is better. More can be better, but you can't start with that more better, because you, just like you said, that you got that person who said, oh, maybe I'm not gonna, they have to make the commitment, but they can't feel overwhelmed about that commitment. I think that's the key. And you've got to make it doable for every single person. That is what's so important. And it's hard. It's not an easy task, but I know we've had success. I mean, that's how we keep thriving, because we're working with people at their level. And I think that is so important. I got an email through my website. Somebody wrote to my website, said, I really like what you're saying. She goes, but are you body conscious? By that, I mean, do I have to come in there and worry about how I look and what I wear? Because I really just want to feel good about myself. I don't want to be put in a program that you feel you're going to make me your project. That's the word she used. I don't want you to make me your project. And you know what that made me think? That maybe the last trainer, I don't know who she had, I have no idea where she went to, maybe felt sorry for that. We can't even, the empathy that we may feel, that can't come out either. We have to treat them in a way that, let's put it this way, we need to inspire them. Let's put it that way. That's what you need to do. I'm not going to say treat them. You need to inspire them. And that inspiration has to come from listening to them first, not thinking, well, I think this is what's good for this person. Let me hear you. What's your story? When I hear that, then we have to really figure out what is a path we can take to get them on the road to doing one thing, just one thing, because it's one step at a time. And then let them take the second step. And then in our studio, it's about creating community. We pair them up with another individual. And we now have classes going on where after class, people that didn't know each other before they came to my studio are now going to coffee next door after, and if somebody doesn't show up in class, they're like, well, what happened to so-and-so? I'm going to text her right now before I even get on this reformer. That's what I get. But that's what we need to do. We need to create some kind of a way that they can feel inspired themselves to the point that they get to inspire someone else. That's how we're going to change this community. That's basically how I feel we're going to do it. I know we're doing it one step at a time, and I love it. I get so excited when I see that happen in my studio. And, I'm not going to stop.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
That's my goal. My goal, it's not, and the trainers that I choose, and I'm sure the same way, I mean, they have to be a certain personality to work for us, because you need to have empathy, but you can't overwhelm that empathy. You need to understand, you need to be able to listen, and you need to be up on your education. That's something that I want to make sure my students know, not students, my
clients,
staff members know, because I think that's important. And then let people know who we are. That we make sure they know how educated we are. What is our point of difference? Our point of difference is that, we are focusing on you, only you. It's not just, you know what I'm saying? So I can go on and on. That's an important aspect in maintaining clients, because, owning a studio, we want to make sure that we have people coming back. That's number one. And that's hard to do, because they get, people get excited and they come, and then if the first time they get kind of, I don't know if I can do this, you got to find a way to keep them coming. And that's the hardest thing. So that's why we have monthly events that can attend for free. We have socials. We have I have Mindy and Bruce Milray coming out. They happen to be in town, and they're going to do a 30-minute talk at our studio for free. And we're inviting the whole local community in. So it's things like that. And we give refreshments. I go around to all the local bars. Yes, we have bars, and we have wine bars, and we have coffee shops, and they all give, because it helps them. It helps them advertise for their own business. But they come to us not just to have a good time, but to learn. And hopefully they'll be armed with something that's going to make them want to change. Something's got to stimulate them. That's the thing. They've got to make the change. We can't always get it. I don't get I would love to tell you that I get 100% of those people, but we've got a good percentage point. We're doing good. Our month of July, we were 160% up in revenue over last year.
Holy shit.
That is unheard of. I got that email that I received from Square that takes all our money. Just to let you know, congratulations, your revenue is up 160% over last year. July, the month of July.
Wow, that's amazing. I definitely want to get into that numbers.
I know we're doing something right, and we're small, and we're a small studio. I think we're making, I know we're making more impact than some of the bigger clubs that are not focusing. They're focusing on trying to push product down their throat instead of focusing on the individual and what do they want to do, and what can they do, and what can they afford. If I have somebody who can't afford a class, well, we're going to find a way to make sure they can do it. So we have actually put on our schedule kind of donation classes where, they're not free, they're donation classes. Whatever you can pay, you give us. So this way people know they do have a place. And by the way, I'm doing that in conjunction with the yoga studio down the street. So they know they can come to either one of us. And nobody's taking advantage of it. I had one woman come in and actually put $20 down. And I was like, I knew she really couldn't even afford it. I was like, so people, you're just giving them that option of what I can do is empowering them to make themselves be able to make a change in their life on their own. So
yeah. Again, so much. I'm loving this podcast. So a couple of things that I want to say, then I want to move on to the community events and the network marketing that you do, because you obviously have done a great job to be up 160% over 1 year. It's amazing. Yeah, that'll grab anybody's attention. But one, your demographic. And I speak to a lot of young owners or people who are new to this industry. And I say, I remember when I opened up Catalyst. And I'd been in an industry over 20 years by that time.
Mhm.
And I brought in this lady, Danae, who was amazing, to do my branding and logos and things like that.
Right. Mhm.
And like help me design the club. And she says, well, who's your client? I'm like, everybody. And nobody can, if you serve everybody, you're going to be out of business. So,
No.
but if you're going after baby boomers,
Mhm.
then it's a totally different demographic than the millennials. You have to, and when I say that, that means that affects everything. That affects your marketing, that
Mhm.
affects your sales process, that affects your programming, that affects your facility as far as layout and equipment and options available, your nutrition, your cost, everything. So if you're trying to be the answer for everybody, you're going to go out of business. So
Great.
pick a niche and go deep
And go
and
deep.
really own that niche, which
Mhm.
you've done a great job of. And the other thing too that you talked about is for most people in the fitness industry, obesity is a foreign language to them.
Mhm.
They can't speak it. So the way that we start speaking to those people that we really want to help and that we can really have a significant impact on their lives if we can help them is by listening and hearing what they say and starting to understand their language, their fears, their apprehension, their anxiety, their goals, their dreams, their hopes, and putting that into the marketing, the sales process, the programming, the layout of the club, the way you structure community events, all of that stuff. That is the only way that we as an industry are going to be able to penetrate that market.
I agree. Totally
Yeah.
agree.
All right.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
And I love how you said find your niche, because I will say when I first opened my studio, I wasn't sure. I don't know who was going to walk in my door. Then I realized that we're in an active community that are full of active agers that were, and let's talk about the baby boomers, right? They were, I was one of those that would, do the high impact running. I did everything. Oh my gosh, probably 7 days a week. And as a result, joint impacted. I mean, as I said before, when we have people that are living longer, they may not be living better. And some of the injuries that the active agers that are dealing with now is because we did the all out in the 80s. The 80s was the era of all out, slam, damn, do everything you need to do, impact, no shoes, barefoot, all that stuff. That we are now in an era of hip replacements, knee replacements.
As a result, I totally believe the running craze and like the aerobics and everything, just the fitness crazes of that industry have kept orthopedic surgeons in business.
No kidding, but that's what's now. That's how I was able to figure that out. That they want to come back. They're not having those surgeries to just sit and do nothing anymore. How to find a way to get them back on their feet and doing what they did before, maybe not to the intensity that they did. And we have to teach them that because they only knew that intensity. So it's now taking them down a whole different road. This is what you did before. Let's find a way that you can still get that high that you're so used to in a different capacity, more biomechanically correct. Let us help you achieve that and understand how your body works. And that is, again, finding your niche. And that took me about 6 months, but that is our point of difference. So that, yes, I cover professional athletes. I'm working with a marathon runner who is already qualified for the Japan Olympics as well. She was injured, and so she came to me, but now she's, being back. So we have both, but we stand for educated trainers that can rehab you back to health and take you beyond. That's basically what we do, and it's worked for us. And being in Boulder, it is an active community, as you know. So I mean, we do have obese individuals though that every community has. It's just very low, and we see that in the hospitals. So we have been able to, as I said, partner with some of the medical communities that have some of those issues, and I'll get phone calls. So I'm also working now with an obstetric and gynecological group that has been working with women that are overweight and now having thyroid problems, right? So now we're getting the referrals from them on that to help them with exercise as they're being treated to get their thyroids more regulated. So it all comes around in place. It's just amazing how it works. And these are people that they're active. They move every day. And that's
yeah, it's great stuff. So Let's go ahead and dive into your B2B marketing and business to
Sure.
business marketing and your community events. So
Sure.
you opened your studio there in Denver 2 years ago.
Mhm.
So where did you start and how did you do it?
How
Walk
did
us
I,
through that.
the process of buying the studio or just how I
No,
got
no, no. Of marketing, when you do your business to
my
business
business
marketing,
marketing?
your
Okay,
community events, reaching
sure.
out to the medical
Perfect.
community,
Right.
setting up
Okay,
a referral
understood.
program. Mhm.
Okay. So when I started out, all the money was spent on getting the studio, obviously, right? So there wasn't a lot of marketing dollars. So my first step was knocking on the Chamber of Commerce door. I figured, this is where I'm going to start. I want to find a way that I could start to market within the local community and also some women's business networks. So just by going through Facebook, finding some groups, we have a Wonder Woman group. Wonder Women are all women-owned businesses, right?
Mhm.
That get together, once a month, and that was my first. And what you do is you go there and you got a 60-minute infomercial you have to give about your business, and you stand up, you talk about it, and then I started offering, hey, let's do a class. Let's do a class for the Wonder Woman. That's one of the ways we started. Well, word started getting out within the chamber. I decided that the chamber was so huge. They have literally hundreds of businesses in the chamber. And I felt that while that was so good, what I really needed to do was narrow the focus down to be able to find a way to move into the wellness arena. So started a Leeds Group, and that's done within the chamber. And I
Well,
should say,
what do you mean by Leeds
a
Group?
Leeds Group is a group that's created under the jurisdiction of a chamber. And you can Google this and you'll see what I'm talking about. LEADS, Leeds Groups. And what they do is they have to be a member of the Chamber of Commerce. And you want them to be like businesses, but not exactly. So there can only be one Pilates studio. There can only be one yoga studio, one personal training studio. There could be one gym, right? Or, a physician, a naturopath, an orthopedic, that's what we started. We created that meeting once every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. We're still involved in it. And what we do is the purpose of that group is to, number one, learn how to speak about your business. Every week, someone has to give a 30-minute long presentation on their company so that you're getting the ability to sell your company, but you also have to learn how to talk about your company in 60 seconds. Then we start passing referrals around. I cannot tell you how many leads I got in the first month from that group. And it was from bringing them into my studio. So I took it a step further. I said, you know what? My studio's right down the street. Let's take a walk this morning. Go to my studio. You don't know what Pilates is. The best thing for you to do is to just witness what's going on. I had them witness a class, see what it was. When the class was over, we chatted. That was my main, and still is, by the way, my main way of getting referrals. We have built up such a network between acupuncturists, between naturopath, nutritionists. When I say yes, there's only one of each. But we have been able to feed each other's businesses. The yoga studio and I have gotten to the point where she teaches at my studio meditation. I teach bar at her facility. And we have members that join her facility and members that join ours. So you have to take the competitive hats off and just see what we can do to help one another. And I think it's been amazing. I think it has been amazing. Look at what's happened. That was one of my marketing. Another is that we here in Boulder, we have a lot of local. I mean, my little Main Street. I'm right on Main Street, Louisville. There's like 5 or 6 coffee shops. There's bulletin boards. I know there are some people that say, "Why are you wasting your time?" It's not wasting my time because I get a lot of business from it. So that we put brochures, and then let's add to that the community events. My first was my grand opening. The grand opening, I brought in Linda Shelton. Do you know Linda Shelton?
Mm-mm.
Linda Shelton, just Google Linda Shelton. She probably is. There wouldn't be a fitness industry if it wasn't for Linda Shelton.
Hmm.
She's the one that created the standards and guidelines for the fitness industry in the early 80s. I was very fortunate enough to have her as my mentor years ago. And I called on her and I said, I'm having this grand opening. Want to come out? Help me out. And you just Google her and you'll see she's probably behind every fitness video and DVD that's on the market by a celebrity. So she has so many, she's just so well known. So I brought her in and had her do a lecture. I did a free lecture I opened it up to the community. I went next door. In the beginning, they didn't know who I was. The coffee shop didn't know who I was. I went in, introduced myself. They provided all the coffee and made me special pastries and gluten-free pastries to serve. I had a nutritionist who came and did some stuff. I had the retail place down the block. They all came in. I created this free event, and I did it in conjunction with a First Friday art walk. Every first Friday of the month, like this coming Friday, we have one coming up. It's the First Friday art walk. So our art district allows for artists to display their work in all of the retail shops. And what that does is create a walk. Now, if you're a retail shop and you're a part of this, you then are responsible to provide some kind of snacks. So people walk through the downtown area and they go from door to shop to yoga studio, whatever, and visit. And we offer refreshments and let them know a little bit about our facility. This alone was hugely successful, just that. So I did that Friday night, and that's why I scheduled my grand opening. The Saturday after the Friday night walk, so people knew what was going on, saying free lecture by world-renowned Linda Shelton. Yep, I had no room in my studio to fit everybody. They all came in. And we did, and then, my standing in the industry, I called Rika, I called Reba, I called everybody. I got all kinds of prizes. Nobody went home without a prize. Everybody went home with a prize. So it's like just giving back to the community. And that was the first thing that got my studio off the ground. Then I will say, and social media in the beginning wasn't so big because I found out that the majority of my clients weren't on social media. I had to build that base. I had to teach them how to be on social media to help me with my Facebook page. Right. So then we did the Center Your Body's Facebook page, did that.
What was that? Can you explain
Center Your Body's Facebook page? I would encourage my clients when they come in and sign up to sign up for our Facebook page as well, and make sure you check out what's going on there so you know if there's an extra class or space, blah, blah, blah. So they need to be a part of that. But I had to build that community because it wasn't as if they were in it. So my clientele is not an Instagram clientele. You know how you see a lot of businesses on Instagram. I've tried it. My clients don't like Instagram. So you got to know, you have to learn who your clients are. They love Facebook. They love Facebook and they love to see personal stuff. If I put personal stuff on there, I get more reactions when I put my grandkids on there than when I put myself. Sometimes they want to see what's going on in my life as well. I think that's important. I'm trying to think, oh gosh, there's so much stuff that we do like crazy. In addition to that, we have a yearly event that we put on, and it's called Pilates in the Park. And we do this the first Saturday in May. And it is run in conjunction with the Pilates industry Pilates Day. It's called World Pilates Day. It's been going on for years. So all the Pilates studios, when I say all, those that are members of the Pilates Method Alliance, will do something on that day to honor Joseph Pilates and his day. I mean, it's all over the world. And what they do is, the great thing about that is if you're a member, they provide the marketing materials for me. But I took it a step further because most studios just give a class. They give a free class. I said, nah, this got to be bigger. So I took it outside. But I went to the media. That's another thing. I do PSAs all the time. Even if I don't get a response, you may not get it, but I always, when there's something new going in my studio, something goes out to the newspaper and something goes to the media. I am now very cool friends with the anchor person for Colorado's Best, which is our Colorado show. We have been on that show 6 times. 6 times. Hasn't cost me a penny. And I do fundraisers together. It's just getting to know that person, inviting them to your studio. That's what I did. Invited her. She loves my studio, loves to come, to the point that last year she invited our studio to do something. She said, June, can you bring the reformers? My husband and I in the truck pulled the reformers, took them downtown to Fox 31 News, and we were on the news, and we were able to, and that's all from just consistently sending PSAs out of what we're doing. We're doing in our studio, how we're making a difference.
So that's really intriguing. There's 2 things that 2 questions I have. One's a statement, 1 question. I'm sorry. The thing I love about everything that you just said, and you just rattled off a half a dozen marketing campaigns that have been effective. They're not just strategies or techniques that you can say, oh, I did this, but they're working, they're pulling business into your
all the
studio
time.
and they are free.
And they're free. And they're free.
But yeah, so my question is, how, when you say releasing PSAs, who do you release them to? How do you get your foot in the door at like the newspapers and local TV stations, things like that?
I create an actual PSA, my own. You have to contact the newspaper, or we do the Daily Camera here. I don't do the Denver Post because we're more on the outskirts. So we do the Daily Camera, which is a local newspaper here. And you just call on the phone. You pick up the phone. Who is the person that's responsible for doing your fitness stories? That's exactly what I did. Fitness stories, and then they give you that person, and then because it turns out that these local papers, you know what, you have to remember, the writers in newspapers, they want content. They're dying for content, and I don't think enough of the fitness trainers out there realize that they will take your content if it's relevant to what they're thinking about. Here's what we do in our studio. How can we provide you with information that will help you put a piece that will help your population that you're reaching out to? I mean, because they want to have stories all the time. So especially coming back from ACSM, being a member of ACSM and being on the advisory board there has helped me a lot, because whenever, and ACSM is who sets the standards in our industry. That stuff comes out in April and May. I'm feeding them. Look what just came out with ACSM. We can help you show how we can help the general public, or the Boulder area, and how they can incorporate some of this stuff. You got to be proactive. It takes a lot of work, and there are times I don't get an answer. I honestly can say there are times you don't, but you don't give up. Joanna said that it was so persistent. I just keep sending things. Hey, how are you? I reached out to her on Facebook. I became a friend. I like everything she does. I make sure I like everything she does. I make sure I comment on everything she does, to the point that when she did the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, huge thing, she invited our studio to become a huge part of it. We tied it in with our Pilates in the park, and we had a huge event. It was amazing. It was amazing. And we also, by the way, I should say, you say the word free. The Pilates industry is separate from the fitness industry in terms of perspectives. They don't believe in giving anything away free. And
Neither do I.
No, but I do. There is a little holder outside my studio. Everyone is entitled to a free 30-minute session, free, okay, and also on your birthday, right? I can tell you that our turnover rate is 95%. They're not going to leave without buy-in there are times that I can't, but it's very minimal. I feel that me giving away that 30 minutes of my time shows them that I'm willing to give to you. You're going to give back to me. So it works for us. And I know I don't give away not a lot of things. The events that we do, when I say they're free, they're donation based, because we are helping either the American Cancer Society, or the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. They have to pay to come in the door, but 100% of the proceeds is going to a foundation.
That's awesome. And then how did you get your foot in at the TV station?
She's the same one. She's the host of Colorado Best. So
you just reached out to her directly via email,
just
Facebook?
Via email,
Okay.
Or go. You know what? Go. Nothing makes a better impression than going. And
you would go down to the TV station?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Go down to the TV station and just say, who can I speak to? And you may not get in the door, but at least you'll get names and stuff.
Yeah.
It works. Totally works.
Wow.
Totally works. Like I said, we've been on TV 6 times.
Yeah.
6 times. And you know that impacts incredibly. And here's the funny thing. My husband is really a stickler on, we need to know how people are finding out about us, because he wants to know. And I'm going to say that probably 98% of the time they say Google. And whenever we Google you, and when I Google myself, we do come up, and there's a Center Stream Pilates down the quarter mile away from me. We come up first. I don't pay for that. I don't know how it does. So if something's happening, if someone's out there who could tell me that, how come we I'm not complaining. I think it's the best, but I do think it's because we do so much stuff.
Yeah, I think it's an algorithm based on how often you update the website, how often you update your posts and blogs on the website, how many people visit your website or seek you out on overall. So there's a lot that goes into it. I'm no SEO expert at all, so I'm not even going to try to speculate beyond that.
But it's just interesting but I think all of that feeds back. We encourage every one of our members, after their very first session, to give us a Google review. We do say that. We do ask them. I know they're getting them because I get them when they come in, and you want to make sure you go through them and make sure they're all good.
Yeah, absolutely. Because one bad one can really drag down your overall rating. And then, so how did you make inroads to the medical community? How did you come up with the idea? Who did you know how to reach out to? How did you reach out to them? How did you begin that relationship? All of that.
So I'm a 2-time cancer survivor.
Oh, congratulations.
Cancer-free. Okay, this is how it started. So in St. Louis, I had skin cancer. It was pretty bad, melanoma, and I overcame that, which was great, but I didn't do any of my networking there. It wasn't until I came to Colorado. 2010, I was diagnosed with follicular lymphoma, which is a non-Hodgkin's, and I had to go to 2.5 years of cancer treatment. I bring that up because this is how it all started. It all started because there's nothing more humbling than going to for cancer treatment and meeting people that would love to move, but don't even know that it's okay to move. And I noticed that as we're getting treatments that I talked to some of the patients that were there, and they said, I can't do that till after my treatment. I said, well, right after your treatment here today, why can't you move when you leave and do something that'll make you feel good? Which led me to speaking to my own oncologist, Dr. Flagel, who is, I think the world of him. He was just amazing. And I said that to him, and I said, what is it that what is advised to cancer patients to do to provide movement and exercise? What do you recommend them to do? And his answer to me was nothing. So I want you to think about when someone has a heart attack or a stroke or comes out of cardiovascular surgery, what is the thing they do to them right away? They put them on cardiovascular rehab, don't they?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I asked him, how come you guys don't have anything? How does a woman who has just had a mastectomy go home with no instructions on what to do and try to lift up a laundry bag without understanding the right way to do that? And that's how it started. So we started talking about how can we refer people, to correct practitioners to do this. And that got me in tune with, I don't know if you know Andrea Leonard. Andrea Leonard is the owner or founder of Cancer Exercise, CETI, Cancer Exercise Training Institute. So I got hooked up through her, through Shannon Fable. Do you know Shannon Fable?
Mm-mm.
Okay, there's Candace Copeland and Douglas Brooks.
Yep.
So,
I know. I've seen Douglas present several times.
I've known Douglas. They're personal friends of mine on top of everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But they somehow got me. I didn't know where to go. So I saw she had a BOSU on the cover of one of her books. I thought, oh, who else to call BOSU? Talk about BOSU, but it's Candace and Douglas. They're in charge with that. So apparently she had written a program for breast cancer. And I chatted with her for a while. And we both together decided, wouldn't it be great if we came up with a Pilates program that would be rehabilitory for cancer patients? So that's what we did. I ended up writing a manual for her, and we're in the process of really more launching that. But that was my first referral. First referral came from my oncologist. That's how it started. Then I was working with you said Masso, you said it in my bio.
Bio, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I was working with a chiropractor, and I hate to even call him a chiropractor because he's a neuromuscular genius. And he had me come in 3 times a week to do Pilates rehab therapy. So the referrals started coming in from him as well. Then I started talking to my OBGYN, and this is different than the other one that I'm talking about. She said to me, Pilates is all about pelvic floors. And by the way, she happens to be one of my clients. She's been one of my clients for 7 years before I had the studio. I said, we work at pelvic floor all the time. She goes, what if we come up with a program that's all about pelvic floor strengthening? Let's market it in my office. That was her idea. This is how it all started. This is how it all started feeding. And then words start to get out. And now last week, the girl that came from the marathon runner, Stedman, you've heard of Stedman Clinic. They're world renowned.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Stedman Clinic is the one that recommended her to me. So the word got out. So that's how it started. So my advice is start with your own physicians. And you know Lori Patterson in St. Louis?
Uh-huh.
Okay, she and I talked quite a bit. We've been friends for a long time. She was interested in how I got that started as well. She went to her own physician and talked to them, and they are now interested in her doing the same kind of thing. So it's just starting your own network. Start your own network. Start with your own physician. Say, hey, this is what I do. This is what I'd like to do. I'd like to start to work with people that are coming off of injury or coming off of illness, so we can get them to understand just how vital they can feel from adding some movement to their life. And these are my credentials. This is what I do. They should be, the best thing is for them to be certified by an agency like ACE or NASM, because they are registered with US Reps. Have you ever heard of US Reps? US Reps is an organization that recognizes the standardized exams. The only standardized exams out there are ACE, NASM. There's quite a few. You just look up US Reps. And if you're certified by ACE or NASM, you are listed with US Reps. So US Reps, the doctor can go in and check to see that you're certified through US Reps. See that even if it's just a personal training cert, it doesn't matter, he just knows that you're certified. You know, it gives them a little bit of an ability to say that, okay, they're certified. I know they're certified. This is the person you can go through. And I use that when I said, you know, I'm listed in US Reps. You can see that I'm certified by these organizations, that I hold, you know, what it takes to bring these people back. And I would love if you would refer your people to me, and maybe we can get them started. That's how it all started, through my own little network.
Amazing. I love it. I love it. You know, and the thing that, because I had Frank Nash on the show. I've had him a couple of times. We're friends, part of the same mastermind group that he helped found. So we were talking about how everybody seems to be focused, that I've talked to in the circles that I run with. They focus so heavily on digital marketing and Google ads that they've kind of gotten lazy. And they've forgotten the face-to-face, the getting out in the community, talking to people, shaking hands, doing community events, all of that stuff. And let's face it, nobody buys an email because nobody buys a membership or comes to a class at your studio based on a Facebook ad, based on a social media ad, based on an email or a text. It's got to be face-to-face. I mean, they may call, but then they're calling to get a human being on the phone to kind of feel out, like, can I trust these people, or do they know what they're talking about? Is it good? Is this right for me? All of those things overcoming all of their objections. Or same thing when they come in for that free session. It's the same deal. They're evaluating us before we evaluate them.
Absolutely.
And so in order to get more members, it takes face-to-face contact, building relationships, building rapport, pressing the flesh, handshaking, however you want to say it. That's what it takes. And so I love that about you, because your emphasis is almost zero on social media and digital marketing, and almost all on face-to-face. And the thing with face-to-face marketing is that it doesn't cost anything.
No,
You know, matter of fact, it pays
work.
because it's just work. It's just footwork, and it's just time, right? Time and effort and energy. But then the benefit of that is that you build a relationship, you build a rapport with that person where you help them, they can help you, and then they start referring people, because we all know that a referral to your studio is the easiest sale you will ever make, because they've heard from their doctor or their friend or somebody else that they trust that you're the person to go to. So they come to you, and all they're looking for is, you know, verification. Let me sign on the dotted line. Take care of me. So when you build those face-to-face relationships and networking and rapport and relationships, then those people coming to you are already ready to buy. You know, so it makes the sale so easy. So, you know, I think like most people are digital marketing over here, and then my screen is backwards, and then face-to-face here. So if you can find somewhere in the middle to meet those two, I think that's the sweet spot. I mean, look at you. I mean, you've done almost no social media, no digital marketing, but a little bit. Percentage-wise, I would say it's probably single digits.
Right,
you know?
exactly.
And then the rest has just been networking. And you've grown dramatically, up 160%. I mean, what owner of a business wouldn't be happy with that number? If I got that email, I would be like, oh, what's the most expensive restaurant in town? That's where we're going tonight.
My husband was pretty happy. Yes.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? So it's just, for me, it's so valuable to talk to somebody who focuses on that and does that. And it comes natural and easy to you. But I imagine it did always. So it's a skill that you have to build, right? But you've been so successful with that. And it costs you nothing. Your marketing budget is probably a fraction of some of your competitors.
Definitely, it is, and it's in definitely, yes, definitely. And I've thought of, I see some of these lots of ads go out, but I mean, we do it all ourselves. And we're growing to the point that we're expanding our studio now. So that's our big thing. October 25th that's when we have Mindy and Bruce coming in, because we're doing a grand reopening because we've had to expand the studio. So we're getting there. Our budget is going up a little bit, but the studio's growing. I mean, with growth comes expense. You can't help that.
Right.
That's basically what it's all about. I've had to hire more people, so, our biggest expense is payroll in our industry.
Yep.
So that's hard to grasp because your expenses are going up. Yeah, I got to pay people now. So it can't be me. I just can't be me doing it anymore. Right. So it's a lot. I'm grateful for what we've done. It is a lot of work, but I wouldn't change it for the world. Yeah. I mean, I love the way we've created this community of people that just share the love of everything that we do. And we highlight the social media we do a lot of is we do a lot of photos of our own members. Like I'll do videos of something, and they love seeing themselves. I think that it's retention. In that way, it really builds retention for us. So that's how we do social media more than advertising. The only time I've really paid for a Facebook ad was maybe to get the word out for the best of Boulder when they start voting to get more people. But what that ended up, I'm going to know, we find out October 25th whether we won again for the third year. Voting ended yesterday. I forgot where I was going to go with that. You ever have just something and just like
all the time. I've done it on the show. I've done it in the live feed. So
I did. I paid for that ad to get out to more people. And the irony in the whole thing is this particular week, we've had more new members than we've had in the past month. And I'm wondering if that social media ad just kind of got out to people that were kind of checking us out to see who we are. So social media can work in some aspects. We just don't spend a lot of money on social media ads. I do a lot of social media. I make sure we post on our pages all the day, but it's not a lot of marketing. It's more just internal marketing.
Just content.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. Well, this has been awesome. I know you're busy. I really appreciate you taking the time because I know you.
Thank you.
You have the studio. You're involved in the day-to-day. You have all these community events and all this networking and coordination that you have to do. In addition to, you present on a regular basis. You sit on boards. You have to be in good shape in order to have the energy to keep up with that. Yeah. So
that's why I go to St. Louis to come down a peg and let my grandkids kind of like take over.
Hakuna Matata. So I want to respect our time. So I always wrap up with a couple of questions at the end of the show. And they're not gotcha questions, but it's my favorite part of the show. So my first one is always to first-time guests. What has been your most successful failure? By that, I mean, at the time, it seemed like a devastating loss that you weren't going to be able to recover from, but you took lessons from that you were able to use to propel you to greater success down the road.
Wow, that's a good question. Well, I'm going to take my studio, the one in St. Louis, because it's not that it was a failure. It was just too expensive to run, to put it that way. So that where we I think we had about 2,000 square feet at the time. We worked our tails off. I had a partner, Stacey Navarian, and we worked our tail off, but they decided to increase our rent, right? And we had to let it go. When I say let it go, I ended up taking what we had and turning it into what then became a whole different type of business at the time. So I took the studio. World Gym opened up down the road. Right? When World Gym opened down the road, we went and chatted with them. And as we were chatting with them, we were like, oh my gosh, they have this 2,500 square foot space that they're not going to do anything with in terms of the middle of the thing. And we just kind of said, what you think about merging our companies together? We'll run your fitness, your aerobic fitness program. But what we did is we started a whole corporate program at the end of that, from that. So we reached out. I had Anheuser-Busch. I had Maritz Travel. I had Wash U. I'm thinking of all those. So it came up, that failure, because we thought it was a failure because we couldn't afford to stay there anymore. It was ridiculous. And it wasn't for lack of students. And it wasn't for lack of paying our rent. They loved us. They didn't want us to leave. So I said they wanted us to be a personal training studio. We said we can't afford. It was $4,500 a month. Can you imagine? That was 1989. Yeah. $4,500 a month. And at the end of the day, when we had to budget things out, we were left with, no joke. So it's a good thing I was married. $50 a month to give to us to pay ourselves after paying our employees. I mean, we just couldn't do it. So it was, when I say failure, it was a failure in a way that we just couldn't financially do it. But we turned it into something that catapulted to something totally different. And the Jewish community centers. We also have the Jewish community centers. We were running all of those businesses and running all of their fitness programs with over 150 instructors.
Nice. That's nice.
So you just gotta, and all from that by, let's see what World Gym is doing down the street. Yeah. And then come up with what you think you can do. So I think that was one of my biggest turnarounds for me. That was something that we turned from a failure right into making it something good. Yeah. And then that launched my educational program, and here I am still doing education. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Because we didn't even cover the corporate fitness programs and how the new law is going to affect that. So I'd like to reserve the right to get you back on the podcast to talk about how you got into like AB, Anheuser-Busch and Meritz and WashU and the JCCA and all of those communities, and how you reached out to that, probably the same way you did to World's Gym. But still, there's got to be, even if you don't have a script written down, I know there's one in your head. I know there's like a checklist that you go through whenever you talk to somebody. So
I had help.
But still,
Marsha Weaver was a big part of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
she was my administrative assistant for 10 years.
Yeah, and she's still going strong over at St. Louis Fitness. Yeah, and her son used to be my general manager.
I love that family. They're awesome.
Yeah. So that's a great answer. I really love it. My next question is, in the time that you've been in the fitness industry, and we're talking some time here, so take your time and thinking about this. What has been the biggest surprise that you've had to deal with that you did not see coming?
Okay. When I moved to Colorado in 2005, the downfall of the industry. I don't know if you remember the experience that here I come to a new city, was doing well financially. And when I started doing well financially, coming from St. Louis and now coming to start fresh and new in Colorado, and everything started falling apart because there were sponsors that I had that were pulling back, and everybody was pulling apart, that I was just faced like, what are we going to do? I became part of a company called BeamFit. I don't know if you've heard of that. David Meserole was the creator of it, and I was part owner of the company. We created this phenomenal product that we thought was going to be the answer. We even got on not QVC, but what's the other one?
Home Shopping Network. Yeah.
Got on Home Shopping Network, and when I mean bombed big time, that I thought that was the end. I mean, financially for both of us, we just were like, and it was just the industry. It was just, you couldn't get any help from anybody. And nobody was buying. Clubs weren't buying any equipment. They weren't buying into education. It just was like standstill. It literally devastated me for a while, but we were able to, that company was able to do better in Europe. We actually kind of took it to Europe, and that's where it went. And it catapulted me back into the Pilates world. That's what happened. And I was able to rebuild on that. So one thing I can say about myself, I can't tell you the steps that I take, but I'm very resilient. I don't give up. You know, I may have a day of hard crying one day, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to be like, damn it, I'm going to do something because I know I can help people. And I think that's the biggest thing that's kept me going is my faith, my dedication, and my passion to this industry and to the world, that I'm here for a purpose. God put me here for a reason, and I'd be damned, I'm going to go until I finish. And I'm not even sure of that yet, so I know I've got a way to go. But yeah, that was a big smack in the face. It was devastating. I think I wanted to forget about it.
Well, that could qualify as your biggest successful failure, 1B. So, and I love that, because that passion that you talked about helping people, I think that's why most people get into this industry. And it's and everybody has a passion for fitness and helping people, improving people's lives. And it's easy to let the day-to-day grind of, like you said, overhead of your business, marketing, people saying no, getting no answers, thinking, oh, this program's going to be great and it's a flop. All of that it's easy to let that mire you down and bring you down. And so you need those moments and people in your life to, remind you of why you got into it in the first place, so that you can kind of keep that passion, that fire of passion going and keep charging forward. And I have to tell you, I have no doubts that you're resilient, because the definition of my resiliency in my book is surviving cancer twice. That's hard, man. That's hard, June. So absolutely, you're resilient. And I think if you're going to be a success in this business, you have to be, or in life, I think you have to be resilient, because nobody goes through life unscathed. We all get dinged up, and it's not a matter of if you're going to get dinged up, it's when you're going to get dinged up and how you respond to it. Do you keep moving on, or do you stay stuck in it? And so kudos to you. I definitely believe.
I also lost a son 3 years ago. So you can talk about that taking a blow. You just have to take it day by day, and just keep looking at the positive side of things. That's what I do. I believe in my life personally, and I think for many, that things that happen to us in our lives happen for a reason. And at the moment that these things happen to you, it may not be so clear, but if you hang on and you persevere, it's going to come clear. And it'll all work out for the best if you just stay positive and be ready to inspire others and be grateful for everything that you have, and always be kind. I think if you can keep that in your heart, you can never go wrong. I think that's a big thing. So
I agree 100%. I'm sorry to hear about your son. And my and my last question, and I'm really curious about this one. So where do you go for personal and professional development? Do you read books? Do you listen to podcasts, mastermind groups? Where do you go? What do you do?
Wow, I do a lot. I thrive on education. I just thrive on it. So there's always one event that I go a year just to myself where I don't present. I just want to be a student. It's usually the Pilates Method Alliance conference or I will go and mentor under someone. I read all the time. I don't go to bed without reading, and it's always about bettering myself as a professional or bettering myself as a human being. I think that's really important. I have to inspire myself. I have a lot of faith. I'm not a real religious person, but I have faith in the universe, and I keep that faith going all the time. I'm work with American Council on Exercise quite a bit. I'm working on my health coach. Here's my book. I'm working on it myself. It's right here. I do that for myself. Despite the fact that I write for their personal training exams, I write the questions, but I have to do that. I can't. That's what inspires me. Being able to go to an event live. Something has to be live. I can't just read. I have to be motivated. Todd Durkin, he motivates me like no other human being on the planet. I think he's amazing. It's just being in the presence of someone that I can learn from and having a mentor. I mean, for me, that is where I got to where I was, where I've gotten. I mean, I know I've done a lot on my own, but if it wasn't for the Linda Sheltons, the Sarah Coopermans, trying to think who else, the Peter and the doctors I talked to you about, these physicians, Dr. Walter Thompson, people that I work with on a regular basis that have helped me mold me into who I am. I also have to say, the owner of Physical Mind Institute Pilates, Joan Breibert. Oh my God, she's 78 years old, and God bless her. I'm still learning from her. The most incredible business mind I have ever met. And I have to say that a lot of times when I get stuck, I just pick up the phone and call her. Hey, so having a mentor is one of the best inspiring things that you could do, and it has to be someone that you can learn from and create a rapport with. So that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Yeah. Great answer. And that seems to be a common theme of the guests of the show, is that they go to a lot of events, listen to a lot of podcasts. They have mentors. They reach out and ask for help. They're not afraid to be the dumbest person in the room, as I call myself often, and just ask questions. If you don't know, you don't know, and you won't know if you don't ask. So I think it's important to have that humility. And I think that type of attitude also allows you to think communally, or collaboratively instead of adversarially, like especially when you talked about the fitness community, like working together with the yoga studios and the other shops in the area, instead of saying, I'm going to move in here and I'm going to crush them all, and I'm going to do it by myself, in all of that. So, but if you can create that community, not only in your studio, but in the industry, I think that's where we're all going to benefit. So since you read all the time, and I'm a big reader as well, what are the last 3 books that you read that really had an impact on you?
Petra Kolber just wrote a book. I don't know if you know Petra Kolber, and it's called The Perfection Detox. Okay. And I love that book. It is just amazing. I can't remember names of books, but I can.
What's The Perfection Detox about?
Perfection Detox. It's I guess it would be classified as a self-help book, but the perfection in one, like you think you need to be this and you need to do that you drive yourself crazy. And it's a step-by-step way to kind of bring you back down and to really realize that, you are enough, so to speak, that, you are enough, that you don't have to make yourself crazy over it. And I love it. I think it's a fabulous book, not only, and she's a dear friend on top of it. So, her step-by-step process is amazing, that I actually went and not only did I read her book, but I bought the audio version because I wanted to hear her talk to me about it. So I did that. So that was a great one. That was a great one as well. That was a great one to do as well. As far as the other, I also like to read, there's this one, I can show you this one right here. It's called Body Kindness, right? And what I love about it is it talks about, because you know how women have issues. I have a lot of women that come in that, especially the professional athletes I work with, oh my gosh. I mean, they just can't stop, and they're always going on. And I have some clients that go on these crazy diets. So I wanted to read a book that would help me work with women more in terms of letting them understand that don't be so hard on yourself. Try to be kind, and let's take a look at all of these things that you're doing. And these really helping you, or you're doing so much that you can't bring it all together. Sometimes I feel like a psychiatrist in my studio. I get, stories. I will never go outside of my scope of practice. I know my limits and what it can do, but I want to have a greater understanding of that. Another one is a book on Enneagrams I've been reading. You heard about that? The personalities? The Enneagram personality. Oh my gosh. Enneagram. It is all about personalities. And I think as a trainer, and I think this is so valuable because I train a lot of fitness instructors, and sometimes they don't understand what they say and how they say it without reading your audience is not going to always allow you to get through to them. So by learning a little bit more about different personalities, it's helped me working one-on-one with individuals by knowing, there's so many different personalities, like 9 of them out there. I mean, it's such an interesting program that there's a whole bachelor's degree in it. That's how it is really amazing, because there's so many personalities out there. You could be this personality, you can be a combination of personalities, but how a person responds, sometimes you may not be really what they're feeling inside. So it just helps me understand people better. And it really has helped me tremendously. So
yeah, great stuff. And all of those books will be in the show notes. So if you're curious to check them out, go to trainerjim.net, click on this episode of the podcast, and all the links will be in the show notes. So June, I've really enjoyed this. I don't care if anybody listens to this. I really enjoyed it, but I'm sure a lot of people will find this not only enjoyable, but informative and beneficial stuff that they can use, start implementing tomorrow to make their business more successful, which is the whole purpose of this podcast. So where in the world can people go to get in contact with you, learn more about you? Or
they can go, yeah. They go to my personal website is junekahn.com, just my name, junekahn.com. Then at Facebook, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, on Twitter, in Facebook and LinkedIn. So I'm on those areas. They can learn probably more about my business on LinkedIn. Let's see. They can email me if they want. Just email me I probably just personally, june@junekahn.com.
Okay.
And it may take me a couple, I get 700 emails a day sometimes. A lot of that is junk, but I would say over 100, to be honest. I get so many emails a day, but I do answer every email. That's important to me. So, and I'd love to help. If I can help somebody, that's why I do what I do. It's awesome.
Awesome. And again, those notes, those contact points will be in the show notes. So if you want to reach out to June and learn more, or just talk to her, or be inspired, you need something that you need help with, sure she'd be happy to work with you. So check out again, trainerjim.net. Click on this episode of the podcast, and all the links to contact June will be right there. June, this has been awesome. I really have enjoyed this.
Me too.
I would definitely like to, I may reach out to you again and have you back on the podcast, and hopefully I'll see you around at some conference or seminar, and maybe we can grab a cup of coffee and chat about, our beginnings.
Right. It's great talking to you. Take care.
Thanks, June. Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.